Darkcast Network. Welcome to the dark side of podcasting.
Darkcast Network. Come to the dark side of podcasts. We have cookies.
Cookies? We love cookies.
Hey there, Rainbow Warriors. I'm CJ, host of Beyond the Rainbow, True Crimes of the LGBT. My episodes focus on crimes committed by and against the LGBTQ community. I've covered cases you probably have heard of, such as Matthew Shepard, Brandon Tina, and the Orlando Pulse nightclub massacre, as well as some lesser-known cases like the murder of Ray Hainish, the Australian gay beat murders, and the suspicious disappearance of Lisa Lynn Stone. I cover cases brought to me by listeners like Penny Brummer, who I believe was wrongfully convicted, taboo cases such as lesbian corrective rape and murder in South Africa, and Pray the Gay Away camps. I discuss gay serial killers, women who pretend to be men to hook up with other women, and trans murders. I'm opinionated and uncensored. I know I'm not everyone's cup of tea, but surely I'm someone's shot at tequila. No matter what your gender or orientation in life might be, please join me as I tackle rainbow crimes in search of unicorn justice. Remember, it's not a crime to be gay, unless you're a murderer.
Devil is on his way. Devil is on his way, motherfucker. The devil gonna make you pay. Fall to your knees. Devil is on his way. Fall to your knees. Devil gonna make you pay. Fall to your knees. Devil is on his way.
Hey y'all, welcome back to Mountain Murders. I'm Heather.
And I'm Dylan.
Yeehaw!
Woohoo! We're making white people noises, y'all.
Is that what this is?
That is.
I know. A lot of folks say that when they imbibe a spirit or libation, their country accent comes out or is more prominent. And I'm like, nope, all you got to do is listen to an episode of Mountain Murders and there's my accent.
That's right.
Siri cannot understand anything that I'm saying.
Can I say, that's actually...
The voice text is so funny.
That's funny you said that because I was, we had to pick our car up from the shop yesterday. Fortunately, wasn't, nothing really wrong with her. But anyway, there was an older black woman in the lobby, waiting on her car. And she was trying to get Siri to look something up for her. And she was super thick country drawl. And Siri was not responding to that bullshit.
Siri does not respond to my accent either. So if you have any kind of deep southern or mountain type of accent, voice texting is probably not going to be the most accurate thing.
Nice.
Oh, well, it's the cross we bear, Dylan. All right. Are you ready to get into today's case? We have lots to talk about. I am going to grovel at our listeners' feet.
Yeah,
you told me, you were like, oh, well, you don't really have to apologize that much.
Well, no, I was just saying,
and I'm like, bitch, I will grovel at their feet. Okay, these are our listeners and we owe them. We owe them everything, Dylan. And I take full responsibility for this week's case being late AF.
This is later than usual, I will say. And this time it wasn't me or my work schedule.
No, it was my fault. It's actually my schedule. Haha, it's the end of school. What can you do? But I finally have our case thrown together, Dylan.
Well, I'm glad to be in the studio with you, and I cannot wait to dive into this week's case.
Okay, well, before we get into the case, I always do that. I'm like, are you ready? And then I'm like, well, before we do that, can we just talk briefly about a movie that we saw over the weekend? I'm just blown away. We went to see Sinners opening night, which, by the way, was an experience in the theater that was packed. Someone sat in our seats. We purchased tickets when the theater was still like when the movie first dropped.
We bought the first two tickets.
We bought the first 2 tickets. We had the premier seats the only seats we like in this theater.
Well, it's because it's the seats that don't hurt our butt.
Yes, the 2 seats that don't hurt our butt. We were like, yes. We get there, somebody's sitting in our seats. And instead of making a scene, I was just like, whatever, and sat in the 2 like empty seats next to our seats. But then some other folks came in and had to go get a police officer to come and remove people from their like 4 seats in our row that they had purchased because people just sitting there. And then the 2 assholes who took our seats were like, well, people should just be able to sit wherever they want. And we were both like, bro, it's been like 15 or 20 years since you could do that.
Dude, and I think one of the reasons is like if I buy tickets and I want to sit with somebody, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to the movie with my wife, friend, whatever. You want to make sure that you get to sit beside them, right?
Seats together.
Yeah, and you go to
And when you've got a group of people, I mean, there were like 4 people
Yeah.
that got kicked out of this row because this group of friends wanted to sit together. They bought their tickets together.
That's why you buy your tickets. And I don't understand adults who don't realize that that's how movies have been for a very long time.
Yeah, I mean,
You
it's
pick
not like
your
a new
seat.
thing.
It says your seat on your ticket.
Yes.
It's not like this didn't happen yesterday. And it just blows my mind. But we could tell that these were 2 maybe low intelligent, low vibrational beings.
Well, the dude talked through the whole movie. Like, he just chatted and gave commentary, like, the entire movie. Her phone was on. She's getting, like, text after text after text, Facebook messages. This phone is blowing up the entire movie. So these people were just fucking assholes.
Right.
Okay? Yeah.
So on to the movie.
Oh, gosh. Well, okay. So we saw it. We were like, yeah, okay. It was all right. But man, I am blown away because all week, all I've seen are raves about how amazing this movie is. Like, it's just the most groundbreaking, phenomenal film that's like ever been made. And I'm like, well, did we see the same movie?
It's the reinvention of cinema.
Yeah, that was an interesting review.
Well, I'm just saying, we've been wanting to see this movie for since I first saw the trailer. I was like, wow, that looked good.
Yeah.
And it was good.
It was good.
It was not a bad movie.
But it was not excellent. And there were, like, in my opinion, some plot holes. It almost seemed to me like 3 movies that had been kind of made and were, like, edited together. And that maybe there was a lot left on the cutting room floor or something because there were characters that didn't seem to make sense or have any intention. There were these storylines that were introduced but went nowhere. And then it just seemed really disconjointed to me.
Yeah, and I think that was the main problems. I love Michael B. Jordan. I loved a lot of other people in the movie.
Yeah, he's a great actor.
I would probably go watch another movie, that was based on those twins that he played.
And I felt like it was kind of a conflicting ideology at hand as well. So I'm like, there was like a certain tone to the film, but then it would be very contradictory in like the next scene. So I'm just not really, I don't know.
Right.
I mean, I just don't think it was as amazing as people are saying. But I honestly think that movies are so shitty nowadays that if you have something that's even like kind of remotely watchable, people are going to be like, wow, I'm blown away because movies are so shitty.
Right.
So the bar is low.
It is.
You can make a movie that's kind of disconjointed, doesn't make any sense, doesn't go anywhere, doesn't have intention with characters or plot.
Well, I'll tell you why.
And people are going to rant and rave about it like that. It's just amazing.
I'll tell you why that movie hit. It was an original idea.
Which we don't have a lot of originality.
It was
in
not
Hollywood.
some big, huge franchise,
Comic book movie.
3-parter comic book, so-and-so universe.
It wasn't full of CGI.
It was not full of CGI. As a matter of fact, one thing I do think the movie did well was it kept, if you haven't seen it, the movies about vampires, and it's, what would you say, 1920-ish?
With like the 30s maybe?
30s.
20s, 30s. Maybe
in the
20s,
30s, in the
yeah.
Delta, in the South, okay? Which is interesting. Not been a lot of vampire movies set there.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was such a great idea.
Yeah.
But very poorly executed, in my opinion.
But they kept
Kugler, hire me. I'll be your writer. I can write you a fucking phenomenal movie.
They kept
That
the
makes sense.
vampire attacks to a minimum, which I really think kind of builds tension in a way. Sometimes they go way overboard. You kind of get tired of it after, couple hours of. So I thought it had elements, really good elements to it. And I think that's one of the reasons people were like, oh my gosh, is because it was original. It was not a remake. It wasn't a reboot. It wasn't a comic book movie. So, I mean, God, it wasn't some IP that you grew up with. It was, kind of original. So, I mean, like you said, the bar's low. But what can you do? People loved it. But just the way people think nowadays, you can't even have a standalone movie because now people are wanting spin-offs and prequels of certain characters. And you're just like, can you just let it be a good movie? Just let it be a good movie,
Well, they're just trying to squeeze they're trying to squeeze the blood out of that turnip. They're going to get every last dime they can, Dylan, because it's all about profit and bottom line.
You remember back in the day, unless you had slasher flicks would have, a series of movies, but they would be disconnected movies for the most part. Like if they came out with a part 2 to a really good movie you saw, you would be like, wow. And it would be like 4, 6, 8, 10 years later. And you would be so freaking pumped about seeing a part 2. But nowadays, everybody, when you make these movies with the intention of that, to be the start of a franchise, to be a 3-part movie in the first place, blah, this and that, it really loses the luster. So.
Agreed.
So anyway.
I'm not saying don't see it.
No.
But I guess I'm just confused. But again, I'm a bit of a movie snob,
You are.
I am. And I'm not saying I didn't enjoy it, but I guess the hype has got me like, okay, did we see the same film?
Anywho, on to true crime.
Well, I'm sorry, but I think all the hype is a crime. All right, so moving along here, Dylan, this episode examines the chilling details surrounding the murder of 16-year-old Jason Sweeney. The case is going to factor in peer influence, substance abuse, and emotional desensitization. And I think that this story is not so far removed from the society that we're living in today.
Okay.
Right? I think it's a very relevant case with a lot that is happening in our world and even recent news and crime. All right. So Fishtown is kind of a hipster area of Philadelphia. In 2025, it boasts artistic, culinary, just a vibrant experience. But Fishtown was once a working class neighborhood just northeast of downtown along the Delaware River. After the deindustrialization hit, Fishtown was likely kind of a rougher area by the 80s and 90s, which we've seen that in a lot of cities.
So early on, when it was a happening place, was this more like seafood markets? Is this literally places that people came in with fish? Or?
Well, it was called Fishtown because I guess during the colonial era, that's a lot of how I guess the economy was based. There were a lot of fishermen in this area.
Okay.
The economy was kind of based on fishing.
So it goes way back.
So it does go way back. But now it's been, of course, gentrified, revitalized, very trendy. You're probably going to see some funky murals painted on the side of buildings. It probably costs 200 to 300% more to live there than it did a few years ago.
Lots of beanies and beards.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We see that everywhere.
In the modern day, there would be e-bikes, guys riding those one-wheel things. It's kind of like a skateboard.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Yeah. All right. So Jason Keel Sweeney was born on July 29th of 1986 to his father, Paul, and an unnamed biological mother. I could not find her information. His mother abandoned Jason when he was just 2 months old. Shortly after Jason's birth, Paul married a woman named Dawn, and although she was not Jason's biological mother, Dawn assumed the role of mom, and by all accounts, the Sweeneys had a warm, loving household. Jason had an older biological sister named Heather, and a half-sister that would be born later named Melissa. I read somewhere that there were actually 4 kids in the house, but I could not find the fourth the name of the fourth child, so forgive me for that. You know, I always try to be accurate with my information. So Jason had big dreams and knew from an early age that he wanted to become a Navy SEAL.
Wow, that's a pretty big aspiration.
That is a big aspiration, Dylan. So, you know, he's making plans to become a SEAL. This is his main focus, what he wants in life. So at 16, he applied at Valley Forge Military Academy. This was in 2001. Sadly, he didn't have enough money to pay the school's tuition. Very expensive, something like, you know, $27,000 a semester or, you know. And in 2001, I mean, that's expensive now. But in 2001, that's, you know, very expensive.
Yeah.
I don't know many families that could afford that kind of tuition for a private school. Don said, quote, he wanted to attend more than anything, and it broke his heart that he wasn't able to.
So he applied and got accepted, but couldn't afford the tuition.
He was accepted, Dylan.
Oh, wow. And that would be very disappointing.
Yes.
To know that you made it that far, you know, you got the grades, you got all that stuff, which sometimes is the hardest part, right? Getting accepted. And then you get it all through all those hurdles, but you just simply can't afford it.
Yeah. And, you know, Jason, I mean, he comes from like I guess a working class kind of family. His dad owned a construction business. His mother was a bank teller. I mean, so they're probably a family that, you know, they probably live comfortably, but they don't have that kind of money. Now, Jason had been best friends with a kid named Eddie Badzig Jr. since they were in the 4th grade. During their preteen years, the boys were inseparable. They were always playing video games together, listening to music, hanging out. The boys even vacationed with each other's families. Jason invited Eddie to Florida, and Jason accompanied the Batzig family to the Jersey Shore.
Oh, wow.
So truly best friends. You know your besties when you go on vacation with each other's families.
Yeah, I think that's a true sign of being a best friend. You reckon they went down there and hung out with Snooky?
On the Jersey Shore?
Yeah.
This is probably, maybe around that time.
In the situation?
The situation.
Oh my gosh. Could you imagine being a grown man and going around and insisting that people call you the situation? Situation.
Now I'd rather people call me the situation.
You know, him and his brother were caught up in a big fraud scheme. Yeah.
Recently?
Well, back then. When all
okay.
the money was flowing in.
Oh, okay.
And a lot of it had to do with tax evasion.
Yeah, they were also caught up in fashion jail.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, Dawn described Jason as a very sweet boy. He was easygoing, kind, and a gentle soul. She said he would intervene if other kids were being bullied. And he was a bit of a peacemaker, like kind of just wanted everybody to get along. Young friendships don't always stand the test of time. Once Jason dropped out of school around the age of 16, that's when it seems that, you know, he spent less time with Eddie. It was reported that Jason tried to keep the friendship going. Yet, you know, Eddie's in school, and without his best friend there, he probably felt pressure to make other friends. You know, it's really difficult at that age to eat lunch by yourself.
Well, you almost have to. You know what I mean? I mean, it's a natural thing, I guess.
Eddie started hanging out with brothers from the Fishtown neighborhood, 17-year-old Dominic and 16-year-old Nicholas Koya. The Koyas had a reputation in the neighborhood. The boy's mother had abandoned the family years earlier, and they lived with their father. He worked long hours, leaving the boys at home quite often. There have been reports that the Koya household was unkempt, so much, in fact, that the boys would carry the television outside instead of sitting in the house.
Oh.
Because the house was described as being pretty gross. Just dirty and nasty.
Well, see, that's where they could help do some chores around the house.
Well, they could. I mean, essentially, from different reports, the boys, I mean, they were described as being like parentless.
Right.
They had no supervision.
Well,
they were kind of left to their own devices.
And I think a lot of people have known families like that, or known, you know, for whatever reason, you have younger kids, early teens, whatever, long periods of time with no adults around. And it's almost inevitable for them to get into some kind of shenanigans, some kind of tomfoolery.
Well, I'm just imagining it's like Lord of the Flies up in that house, right?
Well, it sounds like a bit of an extreme version of that very thing.
You know, you have two boys close in age. They're probably, rambunctious, loud, boisterous, play fighting.
We lived across the street from a Lord of the Flies house, remember?
Yes. Oh, I remember. Yes. So as the boys grew older, they were known kind of for their outrageous attention-seeking behavior. They had reputations for petty theft, car break-ins, and also substance abuse. They would wander the streets down near Philadelphia's city center, carrying a rubber chicken.
Okay.
And harassing people on the street with questions like, "Do you know the lyrics to Pretty Woman?"
Well, yes, I do, son.
Maybe they were big Roy Orbison fans. I don't know.
I would have sang it for them.
Or maybe they like the David Lee Roth version better. I don't know.
I thought they were squeezing the rubber chicken. You know that weird noise it makes?
Oh. How do you know the weird noise it makes?
Well, you've never been around a rubber chicken? It's like...
Okay, that's an odd question. No, Dylan, I have not been around a rubber chicken.
Really?
Not really.
Okay.
When would I have an opportunity to be around a rubber chicken?
I'm just saying,
Like this is just something I have in my purse?
I've seen a few rubber chickens in my day.
I have a stash of rubber chickens just hanging out?
Yeah. Well, if you know, you know.
Okay.
It has a very distinct noise it makes when you squeeze it and let the air back
Like a
in.
whoopee cushion?
Yeah, kind of.
Okay.
It's not a fart, but it's a very distinct noise
Okay.
that is only a rubber chicken can make.
All right. Yeah, I've never really been exposed to many rubber chickens in my day, Dylan. Now, Dominic was informed by his father that when he turned 18, he was no longer welcome in the home. They fought constantly. Dad and son didn't get along. Dad's tired of these boys' bullshit.
Well, and it's not going to surprise me that the kids have issues with authority, or when Dad does try to lay the law down, it being some tension.
Dominic and Nicholas threw parties at their house, and it was a known spot for drinking and drug use. A lot of the kids in the neighborhood knew, they could just go over there and party all the time. For a brief period, Jason was kind of welcomed into the new group, but realized fairly quickly that his life was on a different path. He wasn't super into, hanging out and doing these kinds of things. Jason went to work for his dad, doing construction, and he was earning decent wages. He was known for being generous, often buying his friends coffee or snacks in the mornings before work. It didn't take long for word to travel around that Jason had a little jingle in his pocket. But, Jason's the kind of guy that he's working to save money. He really wants to do something with his life and join the military. At this point, he can't afford to go to the military school, so he was thinking, when he turned 17, he would get his parents to sign so he could join the military, and he's trying to save money. He's trying to make his dreams come true. I mean, he's focused. He's on a path here.
Yeah, it sounds like he has a plan, and he's doing everything he can to stick to that.
So in late May of 2003, Jason met a 15-year-old girl named Justina Morley. Justina was from a large family. She was the second youngest of 6 siblings. She didn't really have a relationship with her father, and her mother worked long hours, often leaving Justina in the care of her siblings. At 10 years old, Justina started smoking marijuana. It was around this age that she also started cutting herself. Struggling with mental health issues, Justina had low self-esteem and desperately wanted to fit in. She would later say she went along with her peers to be cool. She was a follower and definitely succumbed to peer pressure. Justina was expelled from school in the 8th grade. In April of 2002, Justina was admitted to Friends Hospital after a suicide attempt. However, Justina manipulated her mother into removing her from the hospital against the doctor's advice. She threatened to kill herself again. Like, if you leave me here, I will do it this time.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. So her mother took her out of the hospital. This would be the second time that she would repeat a grade in school Like, she's just a very troubled young woman. She would later be diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, even though doctors say, you know, they don't really like to give that diagnosis to very young patients. Justina started using cocaine, heroin, pills, and smoking marijuana laced with embalming fluid.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So she's getting wet.
This was, you know, in the like
No.
8th grade, 7th, 8th grade.
Dude.
That's pretty heavy stuff.
Well, yeah, and none of that's going to help her mental health issues, you know?
No.
It's only going to make it worse.
Justina would later self-report that she had sexual relations with Eddie Batzig and the Koa brothers in exchange for heroin.
I mean, these are...
She's 15.
Yeah, these are terrible. At any age, these are terrible, terribly self-destructive behaviors.
It's shocking behavior. Jason was smitten with Justina when they met. He told his mother he couldn't wait to introduce her to the new girl in his life. Jason thought Justina was just a great girl, and he was sure his family would like her too. Dawn Sweeney told Good Morning America that, quote, "The night before he was killed, he and I sat there talking, and he said, 'Mom, I'm dating this girl, and she's really nice. I think you'll really like her.'" But Jason didn't know about Justina's issues. He had no idea what he was getting himself into. Jason was unaware that Justina was having sex with Eddie and the Koa brothers.
And using all these heavy drugs.
Yeah, he didn't really know any of that. He just met this girl, thought she was pretty and nice, and they'd only known each other for like about a week. So on May 30th of 2003, just 4 days after meeting Jason, Justina told him she wanted to have sex with him. The only catch was finding a secluded spot where the two could be alone.
Damn.
Now, when you're young, you don't have a lot of privacy.
Well, yeah, you don't have your own place, and you really don't have a lot of options.
No, and can we just say that, you know, teenagers are willing to have sex in the grossest, weirdest places?
Is that true?
Just to have access to each other?
Like behind a store?
Like next to a dumpster? Yeah, behind a store, a dumpster.
In the alley?
In the backseat of the car, at the Burger King. I mean, yeah. In the
Dude,
movie theater.
Oh my gosh, that reminds me. I went to the store to get some chicken for lunch the other day.
You had sex with a chicken at the store?
It was a
See?
rubber.
This is what I'm talking about.
It was safe sex. It was a rubber chicken.
Oh,
Wait for it,
oh,
folks.
good. Wah, wah.
We call that full circle in the biz. But no, I went there to get some fried chicken. It was okay.
Yeah, you
But
were complaining that the thighs were small.
Yeah, but you reminded me that that's
what a real chicken looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're not like 4-pound thighs.
I'm sorry you don't have all the hormone-infused chickens, Dylan.
I was like, I think you're right. I think this was more of a real natural chicken. It was probably better for me. But anywho, the woman said she was carrying on. Now, you couldn't help but hear
Now,
her.
woman, is this like the clerk?
The clerk.
Okay.
The clerk said that 2 young people pulled up in front of the store, and this is a very busy convenience store.
Is this the Sphinx?
Yes, a Sphinx. It wasn't
The Sphinx?
a Sphinx. It wasn't a QT.
Okay.
But it's like a truck stop too.
Shout out to the gas stations. You guys should, support our show.
They should.
Give this man a free supply of
But I mean,
Red Rooster at the QT.
It's got tractor trailer pumps and everything. I mean, it's
Yeah.
super busy right there off the interstate.
Yeah, no, okay. I'm aware of which one it is. And it is a big.
They pull up
Travel
right in
stop.
front of the store, not off to the side, not behind it or anything. And the young girl, proceeds just to crawl on top of the dude in the driver's seat, and they start going at it. She's like, she's seeing it on the cameras, and she goes out there and is like, "What in the hell are you doing?" There's cameras everywhere, people everywhere. This is not good. You're going to get in trouble. And she was like, "Oh my God, I can't believe this." And that's goes to your point that 2 hormonal, sexed up young people will do just about anything to get access to each other.
Can't keep their hands off each other. Gosh, I don't remember last time I touched you.
That would never work for me
Well, we know.
in a public setting.
You
Like
have your little hang-ups.
it's just a lot.
Dude, I remember one time years ago, and then we'll go back to our story. My girlfriend and I, she lived on my floor in the dorm. We used to go to Wendy's and get $1 chicken nuggets. You could get like it was like a 4 or 5 pack of nuggets for like $1.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Yeah, so we would go get like a couple packs of nuggets for, a few bucks because, of course, we were poor. So it was like, wow, we scraped together $3. Yeah. And for whatever reason, we would go sit in the Walmart parking lot and eat and like people watch and eat nuggets. So anyway, Brandy and I were sitting there eating our nuggets and like people watching, and we saw a car pull up kind of in front of the garden center, and this young couple in the car just starts having sex with each other at the Walmart parking lot.
Oh my
and
gosh.
we were like, wow, okay, so we really did get dinner and a show tonight.
Nice.
Yeah.
For $3.
For $3. So again, I'm imagining, Dylan, back to when I was a teenager. I guess those words can be exciting and frightening. You might have a mix of emotions when someone's like, I want to sex you up.
So he's getting waved in.
Let me love you down.
And all they need is a place to make it happen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Even if it takes all night.
It's not going to take all night.
It never.
With these two young people.
Well, it doesn't take all night when you're married to a middle-aged man either. So.
No.
All right. So it sounds like Jason was into it. He's consenting to the encounter. It was even described as, he was excited about it, right?
So he's 17 and she's 15?
He's 16.
16? Okay. All right.
They're 15 and 16.
Okay, that's not weird.
Justina suggested on Friday afternoon that the pair walk the trails, which was a desolate wooded area on the north bank of the Delaware River. It was beyond a dead-end street of warehouses. And again, teenagers are just willing to have sex in the grossest, weirdest places. Because, you're just going to go to this dusty trail and be like, yep, let's do it right here on the ground with the leaves.
There's probably trash. This is probably not a kept trail. It sounds kind of gross.
You could get a mosquito bite on your butt crack. I mean, this doesn't sound fun. Late that afternoon, the couple walked deep into the woods behind Beach Street where they could have privacy. When she found the perfect location, the couple started kissing, and Justina told Jason to take his pants off.
Oh, you're getting all the way naked like that?
Well, what are they supposed to do?
Well, I'm saying, what are you gonna do? Lay on the leaves?
Maybe they gonna stand up. I don't know.
Gosh, get some of the
Maybe
plastic.
she's like, bend me over this old broken down oak tree right here.
Maybe they get some of the grocery bags that are caught up in the bushes and stuff. Make a little bed.
Maybe they brought a beach towel. I don't know. It's just young love, Dylan. Jason complied, taking off his shoes and unzipping his pants. Justina took off her clothing as well. Before Jason could fully undress, he heard footsteps behind him. Jason turned, and that's when he saw Eddie, Dominic, and Nicholas swiftly approaching. And of course he asks, what are y'all doing here?
Oh my gosh.
I'm imagining he's just trying to get his fuck on. So, what are y'all doing here, right?
Yes, now you're really confused if you're Jason.
Well, yeah. I didn't agree to this foursome.
And you're naked?
And I'm naked. Or he's naked. Yes, absolutely. I can't stop thinking about being naked, Dylan. Now, before answering, his best friend since 4th grade, Eddie, swung a hatchet, hitting Jason in the right front side of the head.
Oh my God.
Horrible.
That's crazy.
Jason staggered, trying to regain composure. When he got his wits about him, he tried running, but that's when Dominic jumped on him and started hitting him in the head with a hammer. Fucking horrible. Dominic and Eddie continued hitting Jason. He's crying, please stop, I'm bleeding, but Eddie didn't stop. Jason's trying to run again, but the boys overpower him. That's when Jason looks over at Justina and said, you set me up. Once Jason was on the ground, he's all bloody and beaten. Nicholas grabs a chunk of concrete, bashing him over the head 3 to 4 times until Jason was dead.
This is crazy. It's a brutal attack.
Justina will later say, quote, "It was horrible. It seemed like forever." After Jason was dead, Eddie looked at Justina and commented, "I always knew you had skinny legs." Just the
That's creepy.
weird. I mean, you murder somebody and you're like making jokes about someone's skinny legs. You just killed your friend, your best friend that you vacationed with.
Yeah, that's
you
even.
grew up with this guy.
Yeah, and why?
Well, Dawn was worried sick when Jason didn't show up Friday night. She repeatedly called Jason's cell phone, but he didn't answer. And it was unlike Jason to be late or stay out all night without calling home. I mean, he's a very responsible kid. According to reports, Jason's sister had seen him out with Justina Morley earlier in the day, but she didn't really know the girl and didn't have any contact information. She just saw them together. The following morning, Dawn and Paul contacted law enforcement to report Jason missing. Dawn said, she tried to call him from like 9 till after midnight. And I think it was after midnight that they finally called police and said, "Hey, something's up. We can't find our son." At 2 p.m. on Saturday, there were 2 young boys riding mountain bikes on the trail when they stumbled upon a deceased person.
Damn.
Although police knew Jason was missing, authorities were unable to identify the victim or even know his age. The victim's face was badly distorted from the beating, with every facial bone fractured except for one, his left cheekbone. So every single bone in this child's face is broken. The nose was gone. The jaw was sliced open from ear to ear. One of the ears was actually kind of like missing or kind of detached from the body.
So it has literally smashed his whole head in.
Yeah. I mean, this is nightmare stuff. Captain Richard Ross with the Philadelphia Police Department said, quote, "The killing was up close and personal. With the victim being a mass of flesh, broken bones, and bruises, Jason's parents were brought in to identify him at the morgue, and they were only really able to do so via a fresh injury that he'd gotten a week earlier while working construction. Because they couldn't identify, they weren't identifying by facial features.
My God. And this is how you see your child to make the identification, which I know is necessary, but my gosh,
Dawn said, quote, "My precious baby had been beaten to death so brutally that I had to identify him by a scar on his hand."
that is disgusting. And
The pain this family has gone through with this is just unimaginable. Immediately, law enforcement asked for a list of Jason's friends and acquaintances as the investigation began. Jason's family mentioned that he had been seen with Justina Morley on Friday afternoon, that he had met up with her after he cashed his $500 paycheck. Which, if you think about it, Dylan, back in the early 2000s, $500 was a pretty good paycheck, right?
Yeah, $500 a week.
Well, actually, it was every 2 weeks, so he's got his 2-week pay. But $500, that's a good paycheck back then.
Yeah, that's a good chunk of money at once.
Especially for a 16-year-old.
Right.
When law enforcement arrived at Justina's house, her mother informed them that she'd been gone for several days. Justina's mom had no idea where her daughter was. It sounds like initially police were kind of worried that whoever killed Jason might have abducted Justina. However, she turned up 2 days later. When Justina spoke to police, she explained that Jason had gone willingly with her to the trails to have sex when he was viciously attacked. In explicit detail, Justina shared how Eddie Batzig assaulted Jason with a hatchet, joined by Dominic, who wielded a hammer, that Nicholas had bashed concrete over Jason's head, seemingly delivering the final blows. She said Eddie had continued hitting Jason even after he fell to the ground, and that Dominic rained blows down long after Eddie had stopped hitting him. Justina Morley blamed the brutal slaying on the 3 boys. It didn't take long for the 3 boys to be rounded up, and of course, they all started to kind of turn on each other a little bit, shifting the blame, whose idea it was.
Yeah, and that typically happens always in a situation like this. But you watched your, boyfriend might be too soon to say, but this friend of yours, who you've been kind of flirting back and forth and all this, you've watched him get attacked like this, and you didn't go to the police, right?
How about just watching any human being? It doesn't even have to be somebody It doesn't even have to be somebody I know. If I see anybody being attacked in this fashion, I am going to go to police. Like, this is not okay.
Well, no, I agree, but the fact you do know them and stuff, I think it would make it even worse. And yeah, you don't go to the police. You have to wait for the police to come find you, which is always not a good thing. And tells me a lot about you as a person.
Oh, well, you just wait, Dylan. You're going to learn a lot about Justina and these boys. So by June 3rd, Eddie Batzig was brought in for questioning. His father, Eddie Sr., and mother, Jeanette, told law enforcement that they had not seen Jason over the weekend, which was kind of out of the ordinary because Jason and Eddie were usually hanging out. Eddie, who was described as being quiet and nonviolent, his father's like, he won't even hurt a fly. They were really surprised to find out that Eddie had a role in the crime, which was made even all the more incomprehensible to his parents because this was not their son.
He wasn't volatile. He wasn't running around trying to beat people up.
Not at all. If anything, he was kind of described almost as kind of like a little wimpy nerd or something, So it was just kind of mind-blowing to his family. But during interrogation, he admitted, I did this. Not only was Eddie kind of in shock as he relayed his actions to police, but of course his family was in disbelief. Eddie Sr. said, quote, "He gets what he deserves. That's the way I feel. A tooth for a tooth."
Damn.
The Batzig family, despite their own feelings, told the media they didn't seek sympathy. The Batzig family were stunned to learn their son had been using drugs like heroin. They had no inkling that the shy kid was involved in heavy drug use. At all. Knew nothing about it. Which blows my mind. I know it's possible, but how do you not know your kid's using heroin?
Well, yeah, I think that would be, even if you don't know what's wrong with them, I think you would catch them in the midst of this usage of heroin, which is a pretty damn heavy drug. It has some pretty significant side effects, nodding and, kind of laid out or can't wake up or you're sick if you don't have it. It's a pretty big deal. You know what I mean? So it's pretty amazing that which I think just goes to show how much dad's working, sleeping. He's got to sleep sometime. He's just not around his kids a lot, it sounds like.
All three boys told the same story. Dominic said to detectives, quote, "We just kept hitting and hitting him." He also said, "I was as sober as I am now. It is sick, isn't it?"
What the hell is wrong with these kids?
That's really the question of the hour, Dylan. All four teenagers had been aware that Jason had cashed a check from his construction job and that he had 2 weeks of pay equaling $500. Jason had planned to spend some of that money on Justina, according to his family. Once Jason was dead, the teenagers robbed his wallet and a pack of chewing gum. Dominic Koa said as they walked away from the murder scene, the four came together. They came in for a big group hug.
Okay.
They were laughing and screaming with glee. He said, quote, "Then we split up the money and we partied beyond redemption."
So they went and scored some drugs and got high.
Yeah, we'll get into that. So when Eddie was asked, "Why did you steal the pack of chewing gum?" he said coolly, "Well, it's not like he's going to need it."
These kids are sick.
Yeah, they're fucked. Each of the involved persons got a cut of $125 each. So they take this boy out, brutally murder him so they can get $125. They spend the money on marijuana, Xanax, and heroin. Dominic explained that they prepared themselves for the killing by listening to the Beatles song Helter Skelter a total of 42 times. Now, this was the same song that Charles Manson claimed had inspired him and his followers to commit the 1969 murder spree in Los Angeles.
It's funny because a lot of times heavy metal music and death metal and stuff like that's blamed for kind of instigating this type of violence. But in these instances, Manson case, obviously one of the most famous in all of true crime, it's the Beatles. And I don't know if I'm familiar with Helter
I was going to
Skelter.
say, I'm kind of a music person, and I don't know if I've ever actually listened to Helter Skelter. But admittedly, I'm not a big Beatles fan.
No, but I mean, you've still, probably heard plenty of Beatles songs. So it's kind of funny that that's the one
Through no choice of my own, Dylan.
that's the deep cut, if you will.
Yeah, you know what? We should listen to it after.
We will. And maybe they don't play it on radio and stuff because they're afraid that it'll
It's so triggering.
send you into one of these.
Maybe I shouldn't listen to it because you kind of have been pissing me off lately.
Well, look.
You're not picking up your shit. So maybe I'm afraid to listen to Helter Skelter.
Yeah, I'll take the chance.
Who knows what the outcome will be?
Oh, well.
Oh, well. It will or it won't, right?
It will or it won't. I mean, if you want to kill me, you're going to kill me at
You know
some
what's
point.
funny, Dylan? I had a doctor's appointment yesterday, and my doctor said something about the medication side effects. And she's like, well, I guess, either it will or it won't. And I just about died laughing.
Damn.
Because I was like, wow, she's a doctor, and she says it will or it won't.
Damn, man. So it just shows you what kind of high-level thinking
Yes.
that I produce out of this big old head
So
of
either
mine.
I will or I won't have
Yeah.
side effects. Yeah. Now, it was also revealed through interviews that the murder plan had actually been in the works for weeks. The original plan was to persuade Jason to have a party at his house. While Justina lured him for sex, they would sneak up and murder Jason with his carpenter tools.
Okay.
The plot fizzled when Jason went to work instead of inviting them over to party.
Yeah, because he's responsible and he's a nice young person who has responsibilities and already works.
Who's not a piece of shit.
Saves money.
There was also a plan to break into the Sweeney home, rob the safe. They assumed Paul Sweeney kept large amounts of cash in the home since he ran a construction business, and then they would murder the entire Sweeney family. So, I mean, it sounds like the Sweeney family, they were not rolling in the bucks the way these children imagined.
No, it just sounds like your typical working class family.
Yeah.
Who has everything they need and a few of the some of the things they want.
Yeah.
Yeah, just working stiffs.
I don't even know if they had a safe. I mean, maybe they did, but maybe they didn't. I mean, maybe they dreamed up a safe.
Well, you got these dumbass kids, and these drug stupors, sitting around talking, imagining probably half of this stuff. And coming up with these dumb plans.
Yeah, I know. It's just like every family has some large floor safe with a stash of millions and drugs and guns. I mean, what is that? Were they Eddie Nash? Is this Boogie Nights?
Yeah.
Okay, so during the interrogation, law enforcement noted how incredibly cold the teenagers were. As they're admitting, yeah, we killed him, they're asking, so when do we get to go home?
I mean, are you dumb?
Well, I don't think anybody ever accused these four of being geniuses, Dylan.
And when you have these young groups of young people do something horrific like this, this is how it goes. This is how it plays out. They literally think they're going to get to go home at some point.
Somehow mom and dad will be able to fix it.
Or it's not that big.
Deal.
Yeah, it's not a big deal.
I mean, we admitted what we did. We told the truth.
The plan is always just totally stupid. They always get caught instantly.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's like they did hardly even... It's like they were waiting for the cops to come so they could tell them what they did.
Yeah.
And it makes it all the more senseless.
Another friend told law enforcement that the Koya brothers had mentioned robbing and killing Jason Sweeney, but that they thought, maybe the brothers were just messing around. Dominic had said on several occasions that he wanted to know what it was like to kill somebody, but no one took him seriously, especially since he was mostly high or drunk when he made the statements. They think, oh, well, these are just kind of kids being kids. A girl who dated Nicholas was surprised when this story came out. She described him as being a perfect gentleman, said he was a very sweet boy, that she had never seen any hint of violence. So, I mean, it's just a really shocking crime for the whole community.
It's kind of strange that all these kids, there's usually like an instigator or a leader of a group like this. And in this instance, none of them seem to, or unless they're completely hiding their true selves from everyone.
Well, we're going to get to who might be the ringleader of this.
Okay.
So every detail of the murder had been planned, down to which weapons would be used and who would strike the first blow. As you can imagine, the callousness and gory nature of the crime, especially given the perpetrator's age, it just rocked the city. I mean, it wasn't atypical for young people to, be running around Fishtown with no supervision, and drugs had been an ongoing issue in the community. All 4 teens had explained their part in the crimes, but the justice system had to consider that they were juveniles.
Hey, look, as cold as they are and as horrible as that crime was, you know what I'm going to say. That doesn't matter.
Well, prosecutors needed to try them as adults. Otherwise, they could be back out on the streets by the time they're 21.
I agree. They do need to be tried as adults. What they did is horrific.
Law enforcement and prosecutors felt that Jason's homicide had thrill kill elements because, after all, robbery didn't require a vicious battering and murder. Assistant District Attorney said, quote, "The brutality of this case is really beyond the spoken word. The injuries and the extent of the injuries and the amount of force necessary to inflict those injuries is unspeakable." So the only way to ensure the killers would get the sentence they deserved and never leave prison was to get eyewitness testimony. Someone needed to make a deal.
And that's what always happens, right?
Yeah. Justina's culpability was undeniable, yet she hadn't physically participated in the murder. So the district attorney's office made her an offer. Plead guilty to third-degree murder in exchange for her testimony against the 3 co-conspirators.
And what do you think about that in this instance? Because,
I mean, I get they're trying to make a case, but at the same time, I feel like it would have stuck anyway.
You have everybody's confessed.
I think it would have, yeah.
Yeah, but it's like they almost feel like they have to have some kind of inside eyewitness testimony to, just kind of put the bow on top of the trial. Prosecutors are often very reluctant to go to trial without some kind of but in this case, you have all 4 of them admitting, yeah, we did it.
Well, and as we go on, you'll see why I feel like Justina deserves the same sentence.
Well, I think she does, because anytime you lure someone for a crime to get, robbed or anything, I think you, in a way, have a bigger part to play in it, because if not for you, the victim would not be in that situation in the first place.
You just wait, Dylan.
Oh my gosh.
You just wait. There's more. Justina was eager to play the role of victim while sitting in jail. She claimed the murder had been the boys' idea, that she was merely along for the ride. Justina mentioned her depression and her need to fit in, so she's making excuses like, well, I just went along with it because I was desperate for friends. Yet in letters, another side of Justina emerged. She wrote to Dominic. Now, while she's in jail, she's sending letters, and I don't even know how that's possible, that she's able to give letters or exchange letters with these boys.
To a co-defendant.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't understand how that's allowed, unless they're allowing it.
Maybe, because
just to extract information.
Well, here's what she wrote to Dominic. I mean, we're going to talk a lot about these letters. She wrote, quote, "I am guilty, but I still don't feel guilty for anything. I still enjoy my flashbacks. They give me comfort. I love them." Dylan, they say when someone shows you who they are to believe them, and Justina Morley is a monster. In another letter, she penned, "You asked how much we would bleed if we were together. Literally constantly. I would enjoy the blood every day. Torturing these pathetic people. I want them to suffer. Passion for murder."
God.
She also referred to herself as, quote, A cold-blooded, fucking death-worshipping bitch who survives off the weak and lonely. I lure them and I crush them.
See, now she's trying too hard.
She also admitted that she thrived on manipulating, quote, gullible humans. I mean, she's a psychopath. In another letter, she wrote, quote, it would be hard to make myself cry on stand, to make people think I was remorseful or scared or whichever. It's fun making people think and be confused. Justina wrote that if she were ever released, her desire was to give birth to Dominic's baby. She also suggested that if they were never released from prison, they should engage in a suicide pact.
Okay.
They should make a suicide pact.
And so you're going to have to set the date up and like make sure you both do it at the same time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be like, you first, bitch.
If you can't put a baby in me, then we should just kill ourselves.
Oh my, dude, that makes
Like,
me,
nobody wants Satan's spawn, bro.
oh my God, it makes me think of the allegations that just broke against Shannon Sharp.
Oh, gosh.
Oh, girl told him to put a big black baby in her. See, have you heard the audio?
Yes. No, I heard the audio.
She sounds dumb.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, she sounds completely stupid
And
gross.
and
Let's be honest.
So you're coming to LA? Yeah.
So you're going to choke me? I don't know if you should do that.
It's like what? Anyway, put a big
Look,
black baby in me.
all of it is gross. Okay? These people, I mean, he's like, what, 60?
Going on, yeah, and it's
And
yeah,
she's like 20?
mid to late 50s.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm judging. That's gross.
It's gross.
Y'all are gross. He's gross. Didn't he like film himself fucking somebody else like a couple months ago and put it on like Instagram or some shit?
Well, no, his phone was accidentally on FaceTime.
Accidentally. Yeah. You know why? Because he's old.
He doesn't even know how the internet
Because
works.
he don't even know how Instagram works.
Even though he's been...
He's like somebody papaw. He needs to like get somewhere, get a fishing pole,
even though he's been in
go sit at a Hardee's.
entertainment for decades, he doesn't know how the internet works because he's a fucking boomer.
Because
No offense to boomers, but I mean, come on, Shannon. Get somewhere and sit down. Anyway.
like, look, I want people to be patient with me. I was born in the 1900s, okay? I couldn't figure out how to register for classes. I had to explain to my advisor, like, look, I'm old. I don't know how buttons and computers work.
I don't know how Instagram works either.
That's true. You don't.
No, I've never been on
I know you were like, I don't even understand how, what it does.
I've not Instagram and Twitter, never used either of them ever.
That's not true. You have an Instagram account. I've seen it.
Yeah, but I don't.
But you don't use it. You don't even know how. You've got like one picture posted.
Yeah.
And then you're like, I don't understand it. Like, yes, it's just people posting pictures and videos. And you're like, I don't get it. Anyway. Yeah.
Put a big black baby in me.
Why's she got to say that? I mean,
Dude.
to me, that in itself is like
Fetishizing a black
yes.
gentleman. Yes, I know. That's what people are like, dude.
which
what
I'm like, that's fucked up,
it's
dude.
weird. It's weird. And people around him were like, what are you doing? What you're doing, you're going to get caught up.
Plus, don't you have like a history of like all these paternity suits and child support issues and stuff?
Yeah.
Like, why are you putting yourself in this position?
So she wants.
So you can have 18 years.
In this
I mean, Kanye
instance,
Kanye explained it in his song "Gold Digger." I don't know why people won't be listening.
well, I might not be a good person to to quote anymore.
Okay, we're gonna get back to our story in a minute, but we gotta pause because you can't even take Kanye seriously at this point because he just says like the most fucked up shit all the time. That now it's like anything he says and it can be super fucked up. Like, hey, and he literally said this the other day, I fucked my cousin or like gave my cousin blowjobs.
Gave him head.
Because we looked at porn when we were young,
Yeah.
right? And everybody's just like, oh, well.
It's Tuesday.
Because that's like the least worst thing the guy said. Like,
This is just incestuous.
incest
Yeah.
is like the least worst thing this guy has said or done in the last like 4 years, right?
No, I told you the other day he could have video of UFOs and aliens coming out of it, and people
Yeah.
like, yeah, whatever, yay.
Yeah.
Nobody. He's went so far. He is such an attention whore, and I think he has problems too. I think he's mental, but he is such an attention whore. I mean, attention seek. Bad choice of words. He is such an attention-seeking individual.
No, you can use the word attention whore. It's fine.
You can do it in that context. I mean, I just don't want to keep saying the W word.
Well, I like it. Whore.
No, but he's so ridiculous, and he's been so ridiculous.
I always text you randomly like you're a whore.
He keeps trying to top. No, you call me a dirty little slut.
That's because you wear a little tank top and then you get all slutty. Then Jim, like, hey, everybody, look at my body.
He keeps having to one up himself, and he's went so far up with it that it's hard to. You know, next thing's going to be I'm having Sasquatch's baby. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next, he's going to have like a Confederate flag tattooed on his forehead.
Yeah.
And he's going to join the Klan.
That's not even
in his like black Klan robe that he wears. I mean, I don't know. Anyway, it's fucked. The world is fucked place. Okay. So back to our story here, Dylan. I don't even know how we got off on this tangent. It's been so long.
Yeah, you know.
I don't know. My brain can't remember anything. So she also admitted that she stripped for the boys when they were first arrested and sitting in the van on their way to jail. That she's like taking her clothes off and like teasing the boys.
Okay.
Going to jail. I'm sorry, but the jail van is one of the last places I'm going to want to try to get sexy. Some drunk probably pissed or puked in there.
I know it's gross.
Gross. Eddie, Nicholas, and Dominic were each charged with first-degree murder, conspiracy, robbery, and possessing an instrument of crime. None of them seemed the slightest repentant about what they'd done. Dominic's attorney didn't want him painted as the mastermind behind the crime, even though it kind of seems like maybe he was. Like, he's the one that kept talking about wanting to kill people and wanting to make these plans to rob the Sweeneys. He wanted the boys tried separately, as Dominic was only 14 days shy of his 18th birthday at the time of the murder. But the U.S. Supreme Court had previously ruled that defendants under the age of 18 could not be executed or could not be sentenced to the death penalty. So that meant the death penalty was off the table. And in the end, the boys were all tried together as adults. During the trial, Justina Morley turned on the waterworks as she recalled how Jason Sweeney was beaten to death. Batzig's attorney turned the tables on Morley by asking, quote, "Don't you think that you have these guys under control? And didn't you talk about each of them doing these different kinds of violent things and how it would thrill you?" She was confronted about these letters that she had written in jail. The attorney asked about the statement where she was saying, well, I'd have a hard time making myself cry on the stand, and accused her of doing just that.
Right.
Like, here you are on stand and you're faking it. You don't feel bad.
Well, I mean, come on. You'd be a fool to not bring that up in trial when she's literally doing that very thing.
Another letter was read for the jury that said, quote, "Remember I said I had this great dream? Well, it was about me, and I killed this lady in my room. I beat her with a 2x4, and then I cut her open and took out her organs, cut her head off, took out her brain. I stuffed her in my closet for 3 days and noticed blood dripping from the ceiling into my living room and on my carpet." I mean, Justina, you little edgelord, you should have just skipped the murder and become a lyricist for ICP.
Well, she could have wrote creepypastas, right?
Yeah. Or she could write ICP songs. I mean, isn't there a song about in his room or something?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
There's another one about stabbing people.
Well, there's Past the Eye. I mean, there's a bunch.
The rusty axes.
Yeah. She goes on to talk about how she ate the woman's brain in the dream and how she fantasized about killing females and eating their insides. Justina also wrote about American History X and the scene in which Edward Norton curb stomped a man to death and how she wanted to do that to someone.
That's gross. I mean, that's sickening.
Yeah, it is.
Because that's a pretty intense, and they don't even show. They don't, they show up to, they cut away. But I gotta say, that was one of
it was a very visceral scene.
Well, the guy literally, if you've never seen it, the guy, it's making you put your mouth on the concrete curb, and then he stomps the back of his head. Now you can only imagine what that would do, bust off all your fucking teeth. And the pain and how terrible that would be. But yeah, that kind of left a mark on me when I watched that movie as a younger person, I got to say.
No, it was.
And I certainly didn't like, wow, that was super cool. I want to do that to someone, because that's pretty disgusting
Yeah.
to have a thought like that.
Nicholas wrote to her, quote, "I was stupid when we were free. I should have made you my girl. I really do like you." Eddie Batzig has sent a letter saying, quote, "I thought I was falling for you. It was not love yet, but almost. I liked you enough to do the unthinkable."
Wow.
So these letters, in my opinion, kind of prove that I think Justina was behind this. I think she was the mastermind, and I think she was manipulating these boys into killing for her.
Right.
It's that devil vagina.
Well, and so she is, well, we've seen this more than once in
Yeah.
stories we've done. The female lead, the main character, if you will, manipulating these people, these young men, into doing things for them. And, it's...
And then, so I think she's the mastermind, and yet she's the one who gets to make a deal and walk.
Well, yeah,
And
because
not spend her life in prison.
I'm sure there's a huge difference between the sentencing on first-degree murder and all those other charges they have, the males, and then third-degree murder being her only charge.
Oh, yeah. Well, we're going to get into that, Dylan. Now, during the trial, none of the defendants showed any remorse for murdering Jason Sweeney. At the preliminary hearing, the four sat in court smiling and laughing and joking with each other. Paul Sweeney did not buy robbery as a motive for the crime. He thought the boys were jealous of his son because Jason was doing something with his life and they were all just a bunch of losers.
I'm sure that was part of it. I would not doubt that one bit. And they were jealous of his son.
When he had a chance to speak in court, Sweeney addressed Dominic Koya by saying, "Look at me, Dominic. I know you think you have evil eyes, but mine are going to be staring back at you every night for the rest of your life." Dominic, ever the smartass, retorted, "I never thought I had evil eyes, but other than that, I'm cool."
So lame.
Yeah, you're so cool. All three boys were found guilty. It took the jury only 3 hours of deliberation. The Koya brothers went through the trial without a single family member there for support. Like, their father didn't show up for trial at all. They had no one in the courtroom.
Wow.
For the murder charge, each received a sentence of life in prison without parole. They received additional time of 22.5 to 45 years for the remaining charges. Justina Morley was sentenced to 17.5 to 35 years in prison. She was released on December 20th of 2020.
That crazy bitch is loose in the world?
Yeah. And, just kind of doing a little deep dive. It looks like she lives in, I'm not saying anybody should go harass her or anything, but it looks like she lives in Kingston, Pennsylvania. And I did see Reddit messages boards where people were talking about, like, they trained together for remote work. So it sounds like she has some kind of remote job.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Because I guess she don't want to show her face in public. She didn't age well, trust.
Oh, really?
Let's just say prison may not have been kind to her. Paul and Dawn Sweeney set up the Jason Keel Sweeney Foundation in memory of their son to fund a full scholarship for the Valley Forge Military Academy. In 2013, Dominic Koya wrote an autobiography called Biological Juvenile, which was posted in like a PDF format on a prison website. He expresses remorse for the killing, criticizes the justice system, and apologized to his family and to the Sweeneys. I tried to find this
document.
Yes, but I couldn't. It's like no longer available, or they've taken it down.
Criticizing the justice system.
Yeah, I know. For what? You murdered somebody, you piece of shit. Like, who are you to critique anything? Dawn Sweeney stated, quote, "It's literally a moment-to-moment thing. We all just miss him so much. It was just a horrifying shock to lose her son."
In such a violent manner, you know?
Yeah, I've wanted to cover this story for a while. It's so disturbing that it kind of took me some time to some stories I'm like, I want to cover this case, but they're so brutal or graphic that it's like it kind of takes me some time to almost like muster up the strength to research and read these horrific details.
And it's crazy that maybe, possibly, the worst in the bunch got out of jail.
Yeah.
No, I'm not downplaying the violence that those three boys did on Jason. I mean, you can't. It's vicious. But yeah, I mean, I think she had a big part.
Well, she is a bit of a femme fatale, if you ask me.
Yeah. I mean, it certainly seemed that way
I think
then.
the three boys are just monsters.
I think she was too.
They're like little, demons from the devil's butthole.
Really? Well, the fact that they were not like, oh my God, like, what have we done? The fact that they were so callous and all the way through the trial, and maybe after years now, they've grown or view it differently. But just the fact that that's what makes you a monster, in my opinion. That during the heat of it and that very, the direct aftermath, you were just like, whatevs about it. I mean,
don't ever want to see these men on the street. I don't ever want them released.
No. I think if you're capable of something like that once, you could do it again.
Yeah, I think they're definitely dangerous individuals, and they never need to see the light of day. And I think she should have served more time for her role.
I think she should have had life with no parole too, at the very least.
So my resources for today, I read through a lot of old newspaper articles and watched a show called Murder Among Friends. It's an investigation discovery episode. The episode is called Friend Fatale. And then, of course, there's like a lot of websites and blogs out there that discuss the case. All right, Dylan, thank you so much for sitting down with me today to discuss Jason Sweeney's
Thanks for having me.
case.
That was a horrific crime. And now I think we got just enough time left after we get off here for you to go put a big black baby in me. Yeah.
You're gonna get us canceled today.
Well, hey, I didn't say it. I just heard it on the news.
Look, I'm old and barren, and there's no way I can put
You're
a baby.
gonna impregnate me?
I can't put a baby in anybody right now.
Okay.
You wouldn't want a baby. My eggs are probably fossilized at this point.
It'd be a little mad white baby coming from you.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
What does that even
I
mean?
don't know. It's a juxtaposition.
Are my children mad?
No, I'm just saying.
My children are pleasant.
It was wordplay.
Well, what are we going to get? A kid from you that's just like a lazy piece of crap?
Oh, yeah. The head's going to wreck you.
Yeah, little toddler just going to be running around throwing shit down everywhere and expecting me to clean it up.
Top heavy little bastard.
Because that's you. I swear, I got up this morning. There were like blankets strewn about the living room.
Well,
I counted like 4 vapes
yeah.
just stuck in the couch cushions. And I'm like, what is going on in here? And then you had taken off your clothes last night in the living room, I suppose. And you just,
No.
yeah, because they were in the floor. And then there were like 2 pairs of your shoes just strewn about on the floor. And so it's like I wake up every day and have to go behind you and pick up like you're like a child.
Look, I kind of stumbled out here this morning. I'm not proud of the disarray that I may have left my immediate environment in. Not at all. But I barely made it.
So I'm telling you, if I listen to Helter Skelter, you're in trouble.
We're going to listen to it right now, folks. And hopefully I'll be back for the next episode of Mountain Murders.
If he's missing from the next episode, you'll know what happened to him.
Blame the Beatles.
I'm going to blame it on the rain, Dylan.
All right. So until next time.
Dylan hopes he survives.
That's right.
We'll talk to you guys soon. We will have a new episode out for you in a couple of days since we were late with this case.
For sure.
All right, Dylan. Everybody have a great weekend.
You too.
I hope you don't have a great weekend.
I'm going to have a wonderful weekend.
Bye.
Bye.